Hello and welcome to Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast, a show where two former roommates talk about a new movie every week. But this week on the show, it's time for another KHAP Chat. I'm your host, Korbin Zvokel, and as always, I'm joined by my favorite person to chat with, Kody Webb. Kody, how are we doing, man?
Doing great, man. Yeah, great intro from you. Really appreciate that shout out. But yeah, it should definitely be a fun one. This is kind of episode two in this sort of series that we're doing, and I did like the first episode a lot. And just to preface as well, I may be coming from a weird camera angle if you're watching us on YouTube, and that's mostly my fault. And as well, I'm a little bit tired, so I want to preface that as well. So if I say something stupid, that's probably the reason why. But should be a good episode. I'm excited.
As opposed to usual when Kody says stupid things when he's perfectly awake. But yeah,
Exactly.
I'm excited. This week we are doing our second ever KHAP Chat episode. We've got a very special guest. The day this episode is airing is the Saturday after Thanksgiving, which means it's also college football rivalry week. And in honor of the Purdue versus IU football game, and also in the spirit of the holiday, we wanted to welcome this to the show an Indiana University alum, Christian Steiner. Christian, welcome. How are we doing, man?
Doing good.
Predictions for the game Saturday?
For those who don't know, IU set a record this year in football. There's only one Power 5 conference team that has 700 losses, and that's IU. So, feeling good. Somehow they beat Michigan State by only completing 2 passes. So, who knows? Maybe they can only have one against Purdue, take back that old Oaken bucket. I don't even know why people care about it so much.
Hey, it's in Bloomington though, right? So maybe the old Crimson Faithful will come out strong. I doubt it.
I'm sure they will.
I'm really excited to do this episode, though. We are throwing it back once again to our first episode of May Mania, which was season 3, episode 11. We did a KHAP Chat with our man, Luke Manning. Shout out to Luke. It's a great episode if you haven't heard it. But essentially, the way these things work is I've got the blockbuster movie game that we always use for our We Have a Podgorithm category. And another part of the game, beyond just having movie cards, there's cards that have prompts. For an example, movies with a number in the title. So what we'll do is we'll draw one of these cards and then we'll each go around and name a movie that fits into that. So we used that number card for our last one. I think we said 1917 and 7 as two of the examples for that, movies with a number in the title.
In District 8 as well.
District 9. District 9.
District 9.
Great movie.
There it is. They're just stupid. But yeah. Good movies.
After we all pick a movie that we want to talk about, we're just going to go around and discuss each of those movies separately. It's super open-ended. The idea is kind of just like follow the rabbit hole completely. It's unprepared, unpremeditated. We're just talking movies, just a couple dudes having some fun chatting about some movies. We start with a movie and we'll see where we end up. Kody, are you excited for another one of these KHAP Chat episodes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this format is super fun just because it is, off the cuff. We're really just, shooting the shit here, as you would say, and having a good old time. And I think kind of that's where we can excel at times is when maybe we delve off into just some random, topic and we talk about that for a little bit, which this is definitely a great format for. So, yeah, like I said, off the top, I'm super excited. Gonna be fun.
Christian, is this your podcasting debut? How are you feeling about that?
So, I know it's my podcasting debut here, but
you've been around.
Did have to do a podcast for a class, if that counts.
Academic. That's better than this, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's much higher quality.
Not as much, but well, no, I don't. It was sophomore year, so I kind of I've forgotten about what I talked about.
Equally great in content and in the people involved. I'm excited. I'm excited to have Christian here. Like Kody said, this is a very relaxed podcast. I'm breaking out the Simply Lemonade Seltzer, not a sponsor yet until we get them. But we're gonna be having some fun. So you guys ready to get into it?
Let's do it. Those are great vibes.
Awesome. Before we do that, we gotta shout out, follow us on Instagram, TikTok. Check out our YouTube. Kody and Korbin Have a Podcast. We do also have a Twitter. But yeah, we're posting a lot of stuff. and it's at KHAP Podcast, KHAPODCAST. I'm going to draw the first card. Movies with the word "and" in the title.
Wow.
So everybody take a second and think of what the movie you want to do is, and then we'll go around.
So I have my answer that I immediately thought of, and then I have something that would probably make for a better conversation. So I have two answers.
Well, let's hear it. What do you got for us, Christian?
Okay. I don't know why, but first thing I thought of when I heard movies with the word "and" was Marley and Me. So I saw that when I was like 6 or 7. Owen Wilson's in it, right?
Yeah, that's a good thought. It's a good thought.
I believe a dog dies.
I completely forget about the rest of about what goes on in that movie, so I'm going to change my answer.
All right. What was the second thought?
Have you guys ever seen, let's see, I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation, but McCabe and Mrs Miller? It's a
not.
Western.
I don't think I have either.
It's a Western in like 1973, I think is what it was. But I watched it for a class, technically. Well, I mean, actually, I did a paper on it, my final project for the Golden Age of Hollywood class that I took at IU. But I was like, damn, it's interesting because when you think of like Westerns.
Well, wait, you got to save it. You got to save it. We'll get there. We'll get there. You don't want to show your hand too early. But is that so? You want to go there with that one? You want to go?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with that because I actually have something to talk about with it.
All right, cool. All right, we'll throw it over to Kody. Kody, what's your pick?
I'll do a sort of similar question. My initial thought was like right when you said it, just any sort of Fast and Furious movie. I mean, when you hear "and," I feel like that's what you think. But a little more thought, and I'm gonna go with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Classic.
Not Charlie. Well, you said Willy Wonka.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The original. Yeah. No Johnny Depp in here. Come on.
And then me personally, I also thought Fast and Furious right away. I think that's the obvious, but I didn't want to go there, so I jumped over to my letterbox just to see what I had most recently seen. I did see Bones and All last Saturday, but since it's such a new movie, I don't want to talk about it too much. So instead, I'm going to pivot to a little short film that I watched on Disney Plus called Zin, Grogu and Dust Bunnies, which is a 3-minute Star Wars Studio Ghibli short film that I'm very excited to discuss with you guys.
Hey, well, I watched it last week, so
perfect. Then you will be just as prepared for the elegance that I have to spout about that movie. Where should we start? I don't know. I'm feeling Willy Wonka-ish.
I like that. You want me to kick it off?
Yeah, let's do it. Tell us why did you want to talk Willy?
Let's talk about that.
Kicking off the episode, what an honor. I mean, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I think in general, it's like an all-time classic kids movie, which we don't get that many these days. But within the kids movie, like there's actually some cool horror elements. Obviously the ride they go on and the music, it's kind of freaky, but it also has like this fantasy element at the end, which is very cool. And it does a good job world building at the beginning. You really invested in all these kids, even though they're all kind of assholes. And then when you get to the end and Charlie's passed all the tests, you're kind of just thrown into sort of the fantasy of it all again when he goes in this elevator that goes flying. I don't know. I think this movie just really stands the test of time. I feel like especially, maybe not even for our generation, but like the kids who grew up on this movie. And I was one of those kids who grew up in the movie, even though it's like released in the 70s and like Gene Wilder is about as young as I've ever seen him. But yeah, I just say like this stuck so hard in the culture zeitgeist. It's something to still be impressed by today. And I think it's an all-time classic. Also, just don't eat anything blueberry because of that movie. And I mostly stay away from chocolate rivers too. But yeah, all in all, great little flick.
Good advice. My question is, has anybody here read the book?
Not.
No.
Yeah, not much readers. Didn't expect that. Yeah, this one is actually interesting because I watched it for the first time because of this show. Just a couple weeks ago, we did the Defeat the Watch List segment, and this was actually the first movie we ever did. To be honest, it was all right. I think because I didn't see it as a child and I was actually exposed to the Johnny Depp monstrosity instead, and that was kind of like my touching point. I would say it doesn't have the same impact that it did have for you, Kody, very early on. Definitely some really cool stuff. It is like a pretty interesting movie for the late 70s, or I guess early 70s. Gene Wilder is pretty good in the role. Curious what your guys' thoughts on whether or not you have to be a good singer to be Willy Wonka. Christian, what do you think? Do you have to be a good singer?
Much debated.
Well, before I answer that question, it's kind of like I can relate to that, where Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was the one with Johnny Depp was the one that I saw first. So
you guys had terrible childhoods. Yeah.
We're children of the 2000s.
Yeah.
I was 5 when that movie came out. I was negative 29 when this one came out.
Yeah, same. Keep going.
The memory that I have that sticks out was just like, wow, this person's really chewed gum every single hour of her, just like the entire time of her life. I was like,
The gum behind the ear was definitely like a big cultural touch point, I feel like.
Of course. But anyway, I've kind of like blocked some of that movie out. So, but if you're gonna sing, you should be a good singer. I think.
True. I think it obviously Timothy Chalamet has been like recast in that, and I don't think like he's the best singer or anything. And another interesting fact I do want to throw out there, since Korbin was hating on Gene Wilder a little bit, I read that he would only sign on to do the movie if, in his opening scene, he could hobble out on a cane and then at the end of it fall down into a somersault and say, "Welcome to the Chocolate Factory," which I think is a great provision to have in a contract. But yeah, Gene Wilder, that's like a all-time performance from him, I think. Probably his best. Just want to shout that out to him.
When I was a kid, every year at my elementary school, they did something called a fall festival. I don't, you guys probably did something similar, but a big thing within this fall festival is that there was like a lip syncing competition on the Friday nights. I know this is going to be cringy, but we're going to get through it. So it was like a whole weekend festival, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. But the one night there was the big performance, and every year the fall festival had a theme. So, it might be decades or the beach or what have you, but each class individually would have a performance that they would do. And then if you were, as a single person, wanted to do your own performance, you could pick your own song and go up there and do it. There would be costumes involved, and it was quite the event. You could, do groups with your friends. You could go up there. But one year they did a candy themed, I guess, essentially. So I think my class's group song was like the Lollipop Guild thing song. Is that from the Wizard of Oz, right? But me and a couple of my friends, we lip sang the Oompa Loompa song. And we had like orange face paint and bright green hair. And yeah, that was my childhood in a nutshell. At a private Catholic school where we did things like this.
Sounds about right.
It was fun times. I did a few performances over the years. One time I did when I was very young, I did like a Harry Carey Take Me Out to the Ball Game rendition as probably like a first grader. Good stuff. The Ramones, a little Ramones performance one year.
That sounds cool. That could be the video of the week.
If it was on YouTube, it would be a great clip of the week, but I don't know if we have access to the footage. It might have been burned in a horrible fire.
Might have to hit up your mom and get those VHS tapes. So I want to see that footage.
I just wanted to share that anecdote. I hope it doesn't make you think any different of me, guys.
It's too late for that for me. So
adds depth.
Thank you. It makes a lot of things make sense to me. In the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like 2005 version, do you guys remember like a childhood trauma Willy Wonka storyline kind of deeply embedded in that? Which I think was a strange choice because that's not really in the original version.
I actually don't even know. I honestly don't think I've seen the Johnny Depp one like all the way through. Like I've seen maybe a scene or two, but I have not like actually like forced myself to watch that abomination.
I could be misremembering, but I do remember that he had this like weird thing where like as a child he wasn't allowed to eat candy, and his dad was like a dentist, and it was very traumatic for him, and it caused him to be a crazy candy man.
Yeah, I definitely remember that too. At first, I thought you were going to like go and ask if there's something about that movie that caused childhood trauma for us that watched it, and I was like,
well, I guess now we can segue into that. Was there any childhood trauma with this movie for you guys?
no. It's more like, why is this person turning into a giant blueberry?
Yeah, in theory, I mean,
Blueberries, that is traumatic.
true. Yeah, does love a track, and I mean, in theory, like technically, none of these kids, perish. But I mean, I saw with my eyes a few of them, like definitely on this, like the brink of death. So
I
I
would
feel
say
like as
they're
a kid,
disabled.
it should shake you a little bit. I feel like, it's sort
Mm.
of like the message, oh, don't eat too much candy, or you're gonna turn into it, sort of that sort of thing. So it didn't personally scar me, similar to Christian, but it has those undertones, I think, where it easily could.
Should Willy Wonka be canceled then, Kody? Is that what you're saying?
Well, if Timothy Chalamet's playing him, definitely not. Everybody loves that guy. But if Shia LaBeouf was doing it, probably. So it's all how you want to look at it.
Well, Johnny Depp was Willy Wonka, so if you think about that.
If he survived it, probably anybody could, honestly. But that was like prime Johnny Depp too. Everybody still liked him back then.
That's true. People did still like Johnny Depp in 2005. That was mid Pirates. My last question for you guys is, what is the story of the Timothy Chalamet movie? Like, what's your guys' pitch for it, or where do you see them going with it?
Start, if that's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's get Olivia Wilde to be the director, and then
I like it.
we'll somehow find a way to fit Shia LaBeouf into it. Maybe midway through, Timothée Chalamet gets taken off and replaced with Harry Styles, and
that makes more sense. That's a better recast. There's a better comp there than the Shia LaBeouf to Harry Styles.
Both Shia LaBeouf and Harry Styles.
It could be like sort of they're going against each other as well. Like they're almost fighting over Olivia Wilde. I think that'd be perfect.
How is this a Willy Wonka movie? Where's Willy Wonka?
Olivia Wilde is Willy Wonka.
Here's something I do predict.
I would like to see that too.
Willy Wonka will have a love interest in this movie. Do you guys agree?
Only if it's Saoirse Ronan or Zendaya.
I tell you what, if it was a Greta Gerwig directed Willy Wonka movie, I could get behind it. But alas, I don't think that's happening.
With this bizarro gender swapped Willy Wonka pitch that I'm doing, let's go ahead and make Jason Sudeikis the love interest.
Naturally, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
That's just rubbing salt in the wound, really.
Yeah, let's have Jason Sudeikis there, and then Willy Wonka, Olivia Wilde, just like making out with Harry Styles right in front of him. Makes for some good content, right?
Kody, do you have anything to top that? I can't imagine that you do.
I don't think so, honestly. Like that sounds like peak entertainment to me. So,
well, coming to a theater in 2023, check that out. Olivia Wilde's Willy Wonka prequel movie. Let's move on and let's talk Zen and Grogu. So, Christian, you've seen this. I've seen this. Kody, I'm just going to take a guess and say you probably have not seen this movie.
Yeah, that is correct. And I'll start off just to preface something super quickly. This came out, I don't know, like what, a couple weeks ago, a week ago. And the first pod we did on it, the first pod after that, Korbin very, very blatantly said, "This is terrible. Nobody watch it." So you know what I did? I didn't watch it. So I blame you. But I do want to hear you guys' thoughts on it because it does seem pretty interesting. But yeah, I'll take the back burner on this one.
Well, Kody, I say don't watch things you don't watch them. I say watch them you don't watch them. So it doesn't really matter whether or not I told you otherwise. The thing is, it is only 3 minutes, so I could just force you right now to just watch it. But again, like I told the people, don't put yourself through that pain. The reason I wanted to talk about is for the same reasons that I brought it up last time. I do think it's pretty bad. I think it's kind of just an atrocious piece of capitalistic trash, to be entirely honest. And I would like to see if Christian has a different thought before I continue on with my tirade. Christian, what are your thoughts on Zen, Grogu, and Dust Bunnies?
I need to start off by sharing my reaction to finding out that Studio Ghibli.
Maybe should we explain what this is for the people that don't know?
Yeah, go ahead. Just give a brief explanation because I don't really, nothing happened. I was like,
right,
what did I just watch when I finished it?
I should get a good plot summary pulled up too, because there's a lot.
There's going to be 2 sentences.
There's a lot that goes down. I don't have a ton of research on this, but essentially Studio Ghibli, which did Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, a ton of other classic films, right? Animated films, has paired up with Lucasfilm to create this 3-minute short film called Zen, Grogu, and Dust Bunnies. It's 3 minutes and it's very simple animation. It's essentially Grogu floating around with some little dust creatures. It's really more of like a stepping stone for future collaborations between Studio Ghibli and Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm has begun to go more and more into the world of anime. They did a whole season of a TV show. What was the title of that, Christian? Do you remember? Focus or Star Wars?
It was
something.
I watched
Jedi Stories.
Visions, Star Wars
Yeah,
Visions, Star Wars Visions.
Oh, that too, yeah.
As big of a Star Wars fan that I am, I only watched like 2 episodes, and after the second one, I was like, it's cool, but it doesn't really add anything. Like, you're just giving me 15 minutes in a separate world, and then it doesn't go anywhere. I just watched the first 2 episodes and then didn't watch any more of Visions because I was like, it's just wasn't it. But it was cool to see like Studio Trigger and other studios like that get their chance to do Star Wars. So hopefully, like you were saying with Studio Ghibli, that it could lead to future collaborations. Because like, if I don't know how big you guys are into anime, but Studio Trigger does good work. So
yeah, the cool thing about Visions was that every episode was its own studio getting to basically do their own like 20-minute short film in the world of Star Wars, but it's not canon. So basically they had the opportunity to literally do whatever they want. I watched the first episode and I actually thought it was really sick. It was super stylistic. It was this basically like a samurai Jedi thing. Definitely a reason why they made it the first episode. And then I got like 4 minutes into the second one and didn't watch anymore, like you, Christian.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I can say is that second episode is very Studio Trigger, because I don't know if you guys have heard of like Kill la Kill, Gurren Lagann. It's like a bunch of over the top crazy shit. That's Studio Trigger, and I was like, this is Studio Trigger feel. So
yeah. So again, this short film just released. It's 3 minutes. Literally nothing happens. Like, it's basically, in my opinion, in my estimation, it is created for the purpose of people to talk about it and to get clicks on a website. Like, there's no real story to it in any way. Like, I just don't think it's good. Like, it's just not interesting. Like, I wish if Studio Ghibli give them like at least 5 to 6 minutes and like actually make a real story with like structure and something that happens, and it's not just like this weird, not even Grogu looking creature with some stupid dust bunnies. Because like, even it's just not even like, it's like a baby short. You made something for babies. I don't know. It's sad. Yeah. And the thing is, Studio Ghibli has done so many, like some of the best, greatest told stories in animated films. So it's like really disappointing when you have that name plus Star Wars. I'm just kind of disappointed in both a little bit.
Mm-hmm. True, but maybe it is like that stepping stone, like you said, where they're just like sort of forming that relationship.
It is a little bit of like, how do we work together across countries? How do we build these relationships? Like, I get that is important and it's like a test run, but it just sucks that we couldn't have done a little better.
I feel like for such a small project, there kind of isn't a need to like, highly publicize that this is coming out, other than just like, we collaborate with the studio, which is awesome. But I feel like, do this test run and then, go on to the bigger project and talk about those, because it kind of just seems not necessary. But yeah, I'm kind of just confused on why it was such like a big press release too.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of this is like, me and one of my friends from IU, when I saw that on Twitter, I sent it to him, and then both of us are like, oh my god, Studio Ghibli, Star Wars, what? And he's like, this isn't real. I'm like, it's real. And just Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, just like classic animated films like that, such a high bar. And then I saw that they were like, it's gonna be about Grogu, and I was like, okay, interesting. And then it was like Grogu and Dust Bunnies. When I saw it on Disney Plus, I was like, 3 minutes, I'm gonna watch it. But It's like, it's not what I had in mind.
I don't know if you watched the like I Am Groot 5 little short films. Those were all about 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes as well. But the thing is, they released 5 of them, and each one was its own little story. At least, like it was Groot getting up into like mischief or whatever. And he's obviously not. It's baby Groot, so it's not. He's not really thinking or anything. But like he's just having fun. And this was a 2D drawing of Grogu with some dust, and at least like with the Groot stories, we got a well-rendered animated Groot running around causing havoc, and it was cute and it was fun, and you got 5 of them. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I definitely understand. It's just like the most underwhelming thing I feel like they could have produced, really. Hopefully bigger things come.
Yeah. If I think about it this way, like get out my laptop, open up my laptop, log in, pull up Disney Plus, it loads, search up Zen Grogu, click on it, start watching it. It may have taken just as long to get it pulled up for it to finish. Like, is it? I just don't know if it's worth the effort.
So just don't watch it ever again.
I know, but here we are talking about it.
But now I'm definitely never gonna watch it just because you're hating on it so much.
I have a personal vendetta.
Is this a new form of torture where it's like Clockwork Orange? We just have someone watch Grogu Dust Bunnies on repeat with the eyes open.
That's Kody, that should have been the other next time I make you do an episode by yourself, it's gonna be you watch Grogu and Dust Bunnies and do a shot by shot breakdown of that one.
Do a half-hour analysis of Grogu. That would probably break me a little bit. That's probably a better project.
I mean, think to do a half hour on it, you would have to dedicate 10 minutes to every 60 seconds of the actual product.
That probably actually would be just a shot by shot. That would take forever.
Frame by frame analysis. I love it. Does anybody have any final thoughts on Grogu and Dust Bunnies? Anybody excited for the future of Grogu in the Disney Plus TV show universe?
Grogu's cool, but we still don't really. I don't know. He gave up. Well, I don't know if people have spoilers for Book of Boba Fett, but
it came. Listen, I didn't watch it because honestly, it was pretty bad, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan. But I will watch it eventually. But
let's just say if you decide to watch it,
like 8 months ago.
If you decide to watch it, you can skip everything that happens with Boba and just watch the Mandalorian episodes, because there's like 2 or 3 episodes just dedicated to the Mandalorian, and you can pick up enough of the pieces just to get through the monotony of what the beginning of Book of Boba Fett was. But it's like as soon as the Mandalorian shows up, it's like, all right, this one, it gets good. And then it like kind of comes together. But it did give me one of the most memorable scenes from Star Wars where I forget his name, but one of the like half cyborg human people does like the spin before he shoots at a opposing bad guy. So I was like, why did he spin? Who knows? We're still figuring that out to this day.
Kody, I'm going to come back to you and ask how the Mandalorian watch is going. But when I watched Book of Boba Fett, that first episode, if you want to like show somebody an example of what directorial style and distinct directorial style looks like, you can show them the first episode of Boba Fett, because it is so Robert Rodriguez. Literally so much that Mina and I were watching it, and she was like, this CGI character like looks like something from Spy Kids, like this weird monster. It looks like that level of kind of like cheap 2000s CGI, but in a Star Wars thing. And I was like, yeah, because it's literally Robert Rodriguez, the exact same director. So if you want a distinct style and what that feels like, and honestly, it doesn't work for a lot of those Boba Fett episodes, check out Rodriguez's work in Boba Fett. Kody, how's the Mandalorian going?
It's coming along. I believe I'm on episode 7 of season 2. So really not too much left. I could probably knock it out in a night or two here. But I do know like what happens at the end of season 2, sadly. Okay. Just because Twitter and everything. But yeah, I really like the Ahsoka Tano episode. I think that was the second to last one I just watched. And that one was pretty sick. So season 2 I've enjoyed a lot.
Nice. Let's move on to McCabe and Mrs Miller. Mm-hmm. Christian, go ahead and take it away. Tell us about this, because Kody and I don't know anything about it.
So, I'll just preface this by how I came across the movie. And for my final paper, I honestly don't even necessarily remember exactly what like my topic was. I guess I just remember I watched a movie for it, but it was because I took this class called like Golden Age of Hollywood 2, which took us all the way up from watching My Darling Clementine all the way up to we watched it was the new Charlize Theron movie that was based off of a graphic novel. It was like
The Old Guard.
Old Guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like we were going through, it was pretty cool because we were going through these different eras of film and watching a movie from it. But how I came across it was in the 70s, it was kind of like talking about, like a good counterculture going on, another, big, like the movie that we watched for that kind of era of movies was The Graduate, which is one of my favorite movies I've ever watched. But he would give like a bunch of these different films when he was going through his lectures. And I remember seeing that and I was like, looked it up. And I was like, it's interesting. But pretty much what McCabe and Mrs. Miller, to give a brief synopsis of it, is, you have McCabe and Mrs. Miller. It kind of like reverses the roles of what a traditional Western is. When you think of a Western, you're kind of like big macho cowboy dude who comes into a town, solves the problems, and then kind of like leaves. You have maybe like a damsel in distress kind of thing. It's have them kind of like walking off into the sunset. Yeah, so McCabe and Mrs. Miller takes place in like Colorado or somewhere like that. It's just like snowing.
Washington State.
Yeah, Washington State. What is different about it is like McCabe gives off this vibe as someone who is, like a cowboy kind of thing. He comes in, he's kind of like, you think he's solving problems, but then you find out that he's not a fighter at all. He's the complete opposite of this image that you would have for like a leading man in a Western. And like Mrs. Miller is the one who drives the plot in a sense, because she's the one that kind of like, she's the one that takes action in the movie. Like McCabe would be content with what he has and what he's built, but then Mrs. Miller is kind of like the one that drives it in a sense. So it's an interesting take on the genre of a Western. I enjoyed it a lot, and it gave me a lot to talk about for my paper, which is probably on my computer somewhere since I did that my junior year.
Might have to dig that up, but yeah, I'd not heard of it before, but I mean, what you're describing, it sounds very interesting just from the fact of, I mean, it was released, I believe, in the 60s or 70s, right?
1971.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, it's just the reverse like Western trope, which I think like those types of movies going against the grain of what's been established for forever is really dope. And yeah, just looking at the Wikipedia, it's got a good cast too. I mean, Warren Beatty, Julie Christie. It says Shelley Duvall has a small role as well. So that's cool. As Ida Coyle. I think that's like somebody famous in history. Maybe not. But yeah, this might be one we have to stick on your watch list, Korbin, because it actually sounds pretty decent.
Well, it very well might be on the watch list already, to be honest. I do like that you bring this movie up. I also want to point out that it is a Robert Altman film, not somebody that I've really delved too deep in, but he has done a lot of great work. Yeah, Gosford Park, The Player is one that I have seen. I actually watched that for a class, and then he directed the MASH movie, which is obviously a pretty big cultural touchstone for at least people that are much older than us, all the way back in 1970. But my parents love some MASH. Let's see. McCabe Mr. Miller is already on the watch list, Kody. So it could have already been chosen, but
there you go.
I'd say it's harder to find a movie that's not on the watch list, to be honest, but I'll put anybody to the test. I'm not a big Western movie guy. What about you guys? Do you guys like Westerns?
I can relate to that. I'm not necessarily the biggest Western person either. I was able to get out of having to watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for the class. I was not looking forward.
Didn't want to spend 3 hours and 50 minutes or whatever it is.
Of course. No, it was just the fact that, I mean, I was kind of forced to watch like My Darling Clementine, which is like a classic Western movie, and McCabe and Mrs. Miller is like, it kind of tricks you into thinking that it's going to be like My Darling Clementine, and then it does a complete 180. And I was like, it starts off a little slow because it's trying to establish what a Western should be, and then it's like, wait a minute, different kind of thing. So that's why I appreciate it, because anti-Western, revisionist Western, whatever you want to call it. And it seemed like it's kind of like what you would see, people trying new things just in the 70s in general.
Well, the cool thing about Westerns in general is that they are like, you talk about golden age of Hollywood, but just like a very old genre in Hollywood. Like there's so much history of the Western throughout. So there you get to the point where people are making anti-Westerns, and you've got the spaghetti Western movement, and there's all these variations and derivations of that original genre, which I think is definitely cool. I think the reason I probably don't always love them, and even like recent Western stuff like Power of the Dog did not really resonate with me, is I just think like the slow burn nature and this like affection for like a beautiful landscape in a wide shot in the American West or sometimes in Italy pretending to be the American West. Just, I don't know, that doesn't really appeal to me or interest me. I prefer more exciting, or at least more bright character driven stories, rather than these like slow burn, good versus evil, save the damsel, like you said, type of thing. Which was maybe why I would appreciate something more like McCabe Mrs Miller a little bit more.
Yeah, Mrs. Miller is definitely not a damsel in distress. I can just tell you that much.
That's good to hear. And I was gonna say, yeah, I think like subverting the genre, sort of like you were saying with this movie, Christian. But I think like sort of maybe it's just like a Western fatigue thing, because I feel like if you've seen like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, if you and there's so many good ones, but if you've seen like the classics from that era, I feel like you don't really need anything else in that genre. But like cool movies like this, or like Logan, or Blazing Saddles, or even like The Mandalorian, just have like hints of sort of the tone, but they subvert the genre. I think it makes it a lot interesting, and maybe like to rope it back even more into modern today, like, is there fatigue in superhero movies? Because there was damn hell a lot of fatigue in westerns, like in the 70s. So I don't know. It comes to that point where like you make the same kind of movie and over again, you kind of just know what's coming in a sense. But yeah, no, this movie looks like super cool to subvert that, and like a lot of modern stuff tries to do that, and I feel like most time it's like not super successful with such a like a genre that's been touched so many times. But yeah, it's definitely interesting.
With the way that our culture and our interests shift so quickly in 2022, if you want to be successful in creating film, that you have to continue to innovate and expand upon the idea, because we're getting to the point, like you said, where we're hitting that superhero fatigue, and it's because we're getting the same shit, and at this point we're getting an influx of the same kind of mid-level garbage that Marvel's putting out on Disney Plus. But at some point you have to do something that's a little bit different, and you have to innovate, like you said, and give us the anti-superhero movie. Obviously, it's been done outside of the MCU in different cases, but stuff like Werewolf by Night is at least playing with genre and is beginning to kind of flip what we expect on its head a little bit. And I do hope they can continue to do that, or something that I've really enjoyed for the past 14 or so years is probably going to come to an end.
Yeah,
there's got to be some endpoint. Yeah, I think like this also just applies to any genre. Like we were talking about Barbarian the other day, like horror. I don't know, it can get old for me sometimes, but like stuff out of the box, or just a couple twists and turns to throw you off, I think it really goes a long way. But yeah, superhero wise, I don't think we're anywhere close yet. But maybe like the general public is like, oh, I feel like I've seen 100 Marvel movies, which they probably have by now. With the money they make, we're not going to stop making them for a long time.
So just have a quick thought on superhero fatigue. So it's like one of the things that I do, as I huge superhero fan nerd, like I don't know, I one of the things I do is I collect comic books. So for me, watching these superhero movies, like I see the characters that I read, I'm like, oh my god, they're doing amazing. It's like it's perfect. And it's like, even if the movie necessarily doesn't line up for that one moment where it just captivates me, it's like, for example, Black Adam, like Dr. Fate, that is like that Pierce Brosnan just absolutely nails the character. And
yes,
it's like, despite how bad The Rock was, I like was able to look past it because I knew that Dr. Fate was there to pick it up. And then like for Marvel, in Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, like I enjoyed the movie. There were some parts where I was like, okay, we don't need this in it. But everything with Namor, I was a little nervous because like Namor in the comics is, this dude who wears a Speedo with wings on his feet and he kind of silly. And I'm like, they made Namor a little terrifying, just seeing him fly along on his wings, just absolutely just destroy all the different like fighter jets and whatnot that the Wakandans had. So
Yeah, no, definitely well said. I'm a big just like comic book person in general. I don't collect as much as you do at all, but I completely agree. If you like see them translate like a weird character, even like the Guardians of the Galaxy, something like more out of the box, and like just like do something creative or like nail the casting. I agree again. Pierce Brosnan, that is unbelievably good casting. Not a great movie, not really a great role, but I still think just like I did enjoy that movie because Dr. Fate was in it, and it's such cool visuals with him in the helmet and everything. I 100% agree. You kind of just along the same lines. I think I was like, there's no real fatigue. Yeah, it's going to be long for a long time. So yeah, that's cool though.
I got fatigue. What can I say?
I mean, after Black Adam, that's understandable, but
it's true. I think I'm still in a slump because of that, to be entirely honest. And we're mid award season. I'm seeing so many good things. It's just making me sad. Well, what do we say? Should we move on to the next card, guys?
Well, before we do, I just wanted to share a quick thought about Barbarian because you guys mentioned that earlier. And
yeah.
I remember, so like, horror is not necessarily my genre, and
it's nobody on this podcast's genre, so don't worry about it.
So like, to put into perspective, I always go into a horror movie expecting to be a lot more scared than I actually am. Like, for example, so it's going to be a weird story, but so I was at the Big Ten men's basketball tournament and I got to bring a friend along. And after that was over, we went back and he's a big horror person. So because he ended up staying at my house before we went down to Bloomington, we watched The Conjuring and I was admittedly pretty drunk. So I was like, he's like, yeah, it's a pretty good movie. And I remember I had a pillow because like, my friend was watching it and my dad was also watching it with us. And I would just be like, he's like, yeah, we got a jump scare coming up. And I'd be like, oh my God. And then it would happen and I'd be like, that was it? He's like, yeah. I was like, that's not as bad as I thought it was. So, but yeah, anyway, Barbarian definitely, I like the way that they subverted the genre. I had expectations with what I thought The Room was going to be, and then it was not that. And I was like, I admit that I was pretty freaked out. Like I know a movie is a good horror movie when I have nightmares about it that night, and I admit that the monster,
the mother,
was on my mind that night.
Yeah, like she was on Kody's as well, but for different reasons.
That gets burned into your brain. Some of those images, yeah, it's hard to get out.
Yeah, the worst one ever for me was probably Witch. It's like I remember watching Witch and thinking to myself, this isn't too bad, and then I just see the fucking goat in my dreams, and I wake up in the middle of
what's his name? What's the ghost name?
I'm blank.
Black Phillip.
Oh yeah, Black Phillip.
Oh yeah.
Like the whole scene with the apple, and I was just like, I was pretty good. And then I woke up at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. I was like, did I really have a nightmare about that movie?
Black Phillip was in your dreams.
Yeah, so that's a new litmus test. How good a horror movie is if it gives you nightmares. So
I think it might be the most classic litmus test of all horror movies, but
true.
I'm also not a huge horror person, so this point might be because of that fact. But Barbarian is a great example. When I watch horror movies, I'm almost always surprised, and I almost always see something new. And at least when I do see something new in movies, it's usually in a horror movie because it seems to be one of the few genres that's continuing to really subvert expectations and continue to innovate, because you have to find new ways to scare people and to do things that is unexpected. Horror is a place for young filmmakers to adapt, to come up with new ideas. And it's also a genre where like the people are going to say that you need to scare us and you need to put in the effort to do it. So people are constantly innovating and going against type. And Barbarian's a great example of that. That's the thing that I love about watching horror movies personally.
Yeah, I was definitely captivated. There's nothing quite like going from the scene of Mother to I forget the actor's name, but just singing in the car.
Justin Long. Yeah.
Mhm.
His character's, I think, my favorite in the movie, surprisingly. Just because he's such an asshole, and he's so perfect in a horror movie too. Because he'll try to do anything to survive. But yeah, no, that was, I think, the best part of the movie. Maybe like that switch and pace from spoiler alert, spoiler alert, Mr. Skarsgård, getting his head bashed in, and then just directly cutting to a funny Justin Long scene. I think that was really cool, just directorial wise too.
Just drew the next card, and it's movies by Steven Spielberg.
Wow, in honor of Mr. Fabelman himself.
Mr. Fabelman himself, fresh off of our Catch Me If You Can episode.
That's also true. I believe you just saw the Fabelmans too, didn't you, Korbin?
I did. Maybe I should choose that as my movie.
Wow, interesting.
Let's all take a second and think about what movies we want to do by Steven Spielberg.
You drew the wrong card. Should have been Stanley Kubrick.
the thing you've been prepping for weeks.
Yeah, so
that's what we're gonna do Rex at the end, so you can wreck the people, Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, so Kody, I just finished going through a Stanley Kubrick. Not necessarily marathon, because I started in August and I just finished 2 days ago.
Okay, more of a slow burn.
Yeah, which you kind of need that with Stanley Kubrick.
Oh,
because he gives you a lot to chew on after watching the movie. So I'll save my Kubrick thoughts for when we get to that, or for when I can rep it at the end.
Kody, what movie by Steven Spielberg do you want to talk about?
Picking it off again, and I think I'm going to go another strange pick. I'm going to be the sort of what we're talking, subverting the genre, out of the box guy kind of. And I'm going to pick Ready Player One, classic Spielberg film from the 2010s. I think. Well, actually, I'll just save that back now.
I am going to pick The Fabelmans because I want to talk about it a little bit. I know you guys haven't seen it yet, but we'll keep it spoiler free.
Okay.
What do you want to do, Christian?
So I was going to do Ready Player One too, because it would have been a fun movie to talk about. And I know it's not necessarily the best movie. People say the book is better. I haven't read the book, probably should, but it's like, for me, that was kind of a good, bad movie. Like rewatching it the second time, I was like, yeah, maybe this isn't as good as I remembered it, but I still had a lot of fun watching it because of specific moments, and I'll save it for when we get to it. But, if I admit that I haven't seen as many Steven Spielberg movies as I should, but I've seen enough. But yeah, like Saving Private Ryan, definitely one of my favorite movies I've ever seen, my favorite war movies. So, and I'm not necessarily the biggest war person, so that's the movie I'm gonna go with.
Saving Private Ryan. All right. Well, what do we say? Let's start with Saving Private Ryan. Christian, take it away.
So, I had, of course, we all have our ever-growing watch list on Letterboxd, and for me, when I watch movies off my watch list, or I'm just like going through, I just get into a feeling like, I think it's time I watch this movie. And that's kind of how it was with Saving Private Ryan. And, when people talk about how great a movie is, sometimes it can be a little bit of a deterrent, because I was like, I'm going to get to it on my own time. I got to Saving Private on my own time, and I was like, what have I been missing? That has to be one of the best opening scenes in a movie that you've had. Like, great portrayal of the storming the beaches of Normandy, and then you got to see young Vin Diesel, and he's the first to go, but they all died for a good cause, I guess. They die in the name of family, so you can have the
Sure.
connection with Fast and the Furious. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just such a touching movie that actually it really makes you feel the horrors of war, but also have something not necessarily sweet, but it's like in a time like that in World War II, just the ability to do something nice for another person and find Private Ryan. So it's kind of my thoughts on that. Just initial thoughts, I guess. See where the conversation takes us.
Saving Private Ryan, I mean, I feel like we should brand it as Spielberg's best, just because it is that good of a movie. But he's made so much other just like iconic stuff. I'm not sure if it is. I mean, off the top, like you said, that opening scene, it's horrifying and it sticks with you. Like that's reinvented horror right there. Because I definitely had nightmares about that. But then like it goes into an actual really touching story about trying to save a last son and a family who's already been blown apart by his war, literally. But then as well, like looking back on it, the cast is actually it's really interesting. I mean, you mentioned Vin Diesel. Obviously, the main man is Tommy Hanks, but I feel like all the small roles are played by really fun people. You got Giovanni Ribisi. I think Cranston has a small role. Even
Ted
Nathan
Danson,
Fillion. Yeah, it's kind of the cast in hindsight is a
Paul
lot more.
Giamatti.
Yeah, it's a lot like cheesier than you
Yeah.
think it would be for like such a serious war movie. But yeah, I mean, this is one that sticks with you. Matt Damon at the end as well is a really cool performance, and I think directorially, probably like just from a storytelling standpoint, like this and Schindler's List would probably be his best. But I'm more of like the popcorn guy, so I'd probably put like other stuff above it. But I feel like technically speaking, those are probably his best two. Yeah.
Mhm. Real quick thought about so yeah, when they actually find Private Ryan, I admit that it kind of was a little humorous to me. I don't know if you guys felt the same way watching. It's like, you're Private Ryan? Yeah. It's like, okay. We all died to find you, so here we are now.
It is like an ironic moment, and I thought it was always funny too because I don't know. I think I watched it a little bit young, and I didn't even know that Matt Damon was Private Ryan. So it's kind of like oh shit, like it all makes sense. I think I saw Matt Damon like in the top billing, but yeah, like that was kind of a surprise to me the first time I was watching it too. So kind of that added humor as well. But yeah, I definitely agree.
He is the titular character. He's Private Ryan. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Never seen the movie. I know,
Really?
terrible. Never seen it. Pretty rough. I do want to ask you guys a little bit of a trivia question here. Robert Rodat is the writer of Saving Private Ryan. He has a story by credit on a MCU film. Can we guess what it is?
I would guess Captain America: The First Avenger, but that's probably not right.
It is a bottom tier MCU movie.
For the Dark World.
Thor: The Dark World. Christian's all over it. Yes. He really hasn't done a whole lot. He's written just a couple random things. Saving Private Ryan, definitely the standout. The Patriot does also come up. But yeah, from The Patriot in 2000 to Thor: The Dark World in 2013, which is, again, only a story by credit. There's nothing else on here. So shout out to Robert Rodat for putting together this script, though, and helping Spielberg make this one. This does seem to have a pretty fun cast. Adam Goldberg, also shout out in this as well.
Eddie from Friends, right?
Yeah, sure. Never seen Friends either, but
What? You don't know Eddie from Friends?
Eddie from Friends. I hate
Really?
Friends. Friends is the worst
That could be the
show.
clip of the week.
He is
Yep.
he's Mike from Dazed and Confused.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, Korbin, I haven't seen Friends either, so
I mean, I've seen episodes of Friends. I just actively do not like it.
I just haven't. I mean, like I mean, I feel like everyone's seen like clips of Friends. I don't know. My mom's like watched it, so it'd just be on in the living room as I'm passing by.
But in our Dazed and Confused episode, I'm pretty sure I called him Eddie from Friends exclusively. So he must have just been ignoring me that entire time.
Well, typical stuff. Tom Hanks, what a run. We talked about it in our Catch Me If You Can episode. He was kind of at the end of it, but in the 90s, this dude was an absolute powerhouse. Just a couple
He
of
was
his
the rock of the
performances.
90s. He really was.
I mean, he really was the rock of the 90s. But
Better
I mean, where do I start? If we go 88, which this isn't, we talked about his like 7-8 run of $100 million movies, but here's just his movies. So 88, he had Big. 89, The Burbs, Turner and Hooch. 90, Joe versus the Volcano and the Bonfire of the Vanities. 92, A League of Their Own, Radio Flyer. 93, Sleepless in Seattle and Philadelphia. 94, Forrest Gump. 95, Apollo 13 and Toy Story. 96, That Thing You Do. 98, Saving Private Ryan and You've Got Mail. 99, Toy Story 2 and The Green Mile. 2000, Castaway. 2002, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Road to Perdition, and Catch Me If You Can. And then in 2004, he's in 5 movies: The Lady Killers, Connie and Carla, Elvis Left the Building, The Terminal, The Polar Express. Sorry, 2004. But yeah, just in the early 2000s to late 90s, just incredible work from Mr. Hanks himself. Have you guys seen the trailers for his new film that's going to be coming out in 2022, this year, later this year?
Which one? Pinocchio?
It's called A Man Called Otto. It is.
I don't think so.
It's always. It comes out January 13th, which let that tell you everything you need to know about the movie. But it's basically where he's playing a crotchety old man named Otto, who these new people move in across the street and they piss him off because they're new. And then there's like a little girl that opens his heart, and then there's a cat, and it's just a great story about an old man finding a new life. And it's
Kind of
Tom
sounds
Hanks
like
being an old guy.
Gran Torino, but with Tom Hanks.
Yeah, but the people are white, so it's even worse.
There's no cultural significance.
Yeah, there's no cultural significance. He just doesn't like people. He's also going to be appearing in what I think is going to be a pretty interesting movie that's supposed to come out next year, called Asteroid City, which is Wes Anderson's next film. And the cast for this is obviously stacked, as most of his are. Just a couple highlights: Tilda Swinton, Adrian Brody, Hanks, Margot Robbie, Jason Schwartzman, Bryan Cranston, Scarlett Johansson, Jeff Goldblum, Liev Schreiber, Maya Hawke.
That legit sounds like the exact cast of I Love Dog.
Ed Norton, Willem Dafoe.
Yep, you just named the entire cast. That's wild.
Jeffrey Wright. I mean, he's got his people he likes to stick with, but this movie I think is actually honestly already done. It's a romantic comedy drama film. But I think they're releasing it next year, potentially at Cannes. So
nice. Excited for that.
Yeah.
Sounds Gucci.
I think it is cool. We talked about in Catch Me If You Can some themes with Spielberg and his films, one of them being related to his, his mother and his father's divorce. I'll talk about it more as we get into the Fabelmans. But another thing that's very prominent is his Jewish both faith and culture, and the kind of the way that plays into things. It's very clear that in making Schindler's List and making Saving Private Ryan, those are very personal stories to him as a Jewish man.
So Schindler's List is my Saving Private Ryan for you.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yep. It's on my list and I want to, but I've been like, I need to be in the right mind space to watch it, because I've seen that it's very heavy, and it's like, plus it's a long movie, so make sure I'm not like doing anything. But I'll come around to it eventually.
Yeah, definitely one deserving of the attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely very heavy though. You're not right. You're not wrong. I think it's funny as well. This never happens where I've seen a couple movies and Korbin hasn't seen one and our guest hasn't seen one. That never happens. But yeah, both heavy pictures. So definitely need a little bit of time to just prepare yourself before going in. But yeah, definitely good to check out.
Shout out Matt Damon.
Always. Shout out Benny Boy too.
Shall we move on to Ready Player One?
Yeah, you want to?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I'm just going to preface this and also say that I've never seen this movie either. So go ahead, Kody.
Really?
Why do you want to talk about Ready Player One?
Oh man, you should actually check it out. That's gonna be our next pick for our watch list.
Hey, it's fun. Yeah.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. I do like the film a genuine amount. And but I wanted to preface it what I was saying on our last pod. Spielberg, he went from the 70s all the way through like the 2000s, almost just making a couple classics every decade, which is utterly ridiculous. And I think the cutoff point when he stopped making these classics every decade, was probably the 2010s, and that started off with Ready Player One. Like we said, I do think it's a fun movie. It's not his best, and there's a lot of gaping holes, but I think the cast is cool. I think just the concept itself is much, much cooler. That's really what carries it. And obviously, it's based on a book. I have looked into it a little bit, and it seems it's not really based off the book at all, very loosely. But the script, it's got some interesting Easter eggs, literally. Obviously, you've seen the movie, but I think overall, just like the action set pieces inside this virtual world, obviously the car, race at the beginning is probably my favorite scene. And then it sort of just delves into more of like a bureaucratic sort of story of like trying to get on the inside of this global tech company, and then sort of just like the overall message being, just be who you are and it'll all work out. So it's like the classic sort of Spielberg science fiction movie, but I just don't think it really works fully. Not a great explanation of my thoughts there. I'll throw it to you, Christian. What do you think? Because I think this movie, it has highs, but it also does have some lows.
One thing that I definitely felt fatigued about when I was watching this movie was you could tell that they kept trying to push like every Warner Brothers property into this movie. Or at least that's how I felt. Yeah, but
what is this, Space Jam 2?
I was gonna say that. That sounds like Korbin's gonna bring up Space Jam.
But there was Gundam, and that made me happy. Even though I had never seen Gundam, it was very cool.
The references really, they're uncountable almost. I feel like every 5 seconds, there's another just random reference they're throwing at you. So all of those Easter eggs, just picking those up, and the more you know it, the probably cooler it is. I probably know like half of them, so I'm not that crazy into it. But the legit like Easter egg counter, it's got to be over like 2, 3, 4,000. Like it's got to be ridiculous. If you like put in the time, I'm sure on YouTube people actually have gone to like every single reference in Ready Player One, which may be a very long video. I don't know if I should just go look that up just because it may waste your time. But I think the amount of work like put into every single like frame is actually ridiculous. So props there to Spielberg as well. This might be like one of the movies he was working on longest before it got like released in the theaters. So that's cool.
Free Guy better.
But I actually disagree. I think my Letterboxd review, I said Ready Player One is what Free Guy wishes it was. I think I said something like that. And I back that today. Free Guy, overrated.
See, but to me, Free Guy is better because it's like a mix between Ready Player One and
you haven't even seen it.
The Truman Show and The Matrix. And it's a fantastic cultural piece of art. And Ryan Reynolds is awful and very annoying. What do you guys think about Ty Sheridan's performance in this movie? Are you guys fans of it?
I'd say it's iffy. I think the main female, I don't know her particular name, but I think she was a little bit worse than Ty Sheridan. Maybe that showed a little bit. But the kid really hasn't been doing much since like the X-Men, which I feel like he was specifically bad.
Olivia Cook.
That name actually sounds familiar. I don't know. Maybe she's another stuff. But Ty Sheridan, other than Cyclops,
she's in House of Dragon.
Yeah. That is where I know that name from. Yeah, and she's good in House of Dragon, so fair to her. I take it back. But Ty Sheridan. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, X-Men. There's a specific line in Dark Phoenix where where he drops the F-bomb in that comedy. That could be the clip of the week as well, because that's a great scene. But he hasn't been doing too much, so maybe this was kind of the peak of his career, low-key, which is kind of sad.
Well, it's interesting because he's been in some weird he's been in some interesting projects. So in 2021, he was in The Tender Bar, which a movie that just like came out early in the year. It's an Amazon original. Can either of you even tell me who's in that movie? Well,
No.
It's Ben Affleck. It's a Ben Affleck movie, and it's directed by George Clooney, and yet nobody knows anything about it. It was a weird time, it was still kind of, the pandemic was obviously pretty in the thick of things early 2021. But then also he was in another movie in 2021, The Card Counter, which is the Paul Schrader, Oscar Isaac film where he kind of plays Oscar Isaac's pseudo son apprentice type character. He's fine in The Card Counter, I think. he's working with, obviously good people. George Clooney, Paul Schrader is a classic director, but I just feel like some of those projects just aren't really hitting quite right. It is interesting to see considering the people he's worked with, but I don't know. He was also in a movie called Voyagers, which looks bad. It has Lily Rose Depp.
I don't think I've heard of any of those three. I mean, well, I heard of the card counter, but actually, I didn't know he was in that. Bless you, Korbin. Korbin let out a big sneeze. That's saying it. But yeah, the card counter. I feel like it was kind of underwhelming at the box office a little bit, but I do like Oscar Isaac a lot. If he's teaching the ropes to Mr. Sheridan, that sounds okay. But kind of like what you're saying, it seems like he's been just more in small market stuff, which may be a shout for him, because like going in and actually working on his acting and trying to be like a more serious actor. Maybe that's a good route for him after like a big franchise like the X-Men.
There's a scene in that movie, which hell, it could be the clip of the week, where Oscar Isaac like turns and looks to Ty Sheridan and he's like, "Do you know about this Google Maps thing?"
Never heard of it.
Yeah, he was in prison for a while, but Ty Sheridan was just like, "Yeah, I know how to work it."
Sounds like great dialogue.
Yeah, it's well written stuff. I did get to see well, also I will say Tiffany Haddish is in that movie, and she's just like, I like her as an actress, but she's just not really right for the role that she's playing. I would say she's kind of miscast in what's supposed to be a pretty dramatic and serious role, and I think she's just, I don't know, it just doesn't work. And her and Oscar Isaac have no chemistry, and they're supposed to have some sort of sexual relationship throughout, which it just doesn't really work for me at all. But I did get to see, I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I got to see Paul Schrader debut his most recent movie at the New York Film Festival this year, called Master Gardener, which is better than the card counter. So if you want to go check that out, I don't actually know when it's releasing wide, but interesting film. Any other thoughts about Ready Player One, guys?
I saw that it came out in 2018, and for me, it felt like that movie came out in like 2014 or something. It just feels like so long ago, but it's actually not as far back as I thought.
Yeah, I agree with that, dude. 2018 seems kind of too recent for that. That is weird. COVID, man, messed up all of our sense of time, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Wild.
I guess
it feels like over 10 years over, sure. God,
it does.
It feels old.
It definitely feels old, but I think, and I can use this to begin our conversation about the Fabelmans, but Spielberg as of late has kind of just really forgettable when he directs a movie. It's kind of like, you could have told me that someone else directed Ready Player One, and I probably would have believed you just as much. And the same thing with a lot of these, especially his 2010s movies. But just kind of looking back, I think Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull might have been that breaking point in 2008. He takes a 3-year break after that, and he makes The Adventures of Tintin and Warhorse, which both fine movies, but just like, if you think like Spielberg, it's kind of like, I don't know. And then obviously he does Lincoln, which is a huge epic about, a revered character or person in American history. And obviously it's Daniel Day-Lewis, being Daniel Day-Lewis. But then you get like Bridge of Spies, the BFG, The Post, Ready Player One, and West Side Story, where it's like those movies all had like good pieces in them and good actors, and it's still directed by Steven Spielberg, but I would say most of them are just pretty forgettable over the last, like, there's so many better movies that have come out. Whereas like if you said Steven Spielberg in the late 90s, early 2000s would always be probably directing the best movies of the year. Whereas like these are very mid-tier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's hard to stay elite. It's hard to keep that magic, I think. But yeah, I say we go in it. Is that like what you think is a similar vibe for the Fabelmans, or is it a little bit different?
I don't know. The Fabelmans, it just doesn't work on me quite in the same way. I personally think the look of it is not great. You can see this in the trailers, but it's got this super contrasty, dark kind of color grade to it but I don't know. I just don't think it looks good. I think the West Side Story too, like the way his like shadows and his darks, and it's just very muddy. And I just don't love the way some of his newer films look, whereas like the older stuff is a lot more natural and bright, where this seems like a very distinct look to it. The Fabelmans, I gotta say, it's about his childhood, so you can't really like be too mad about story beats or like character decisions if those things actually happened, right? Like that was a conversation Mina and I were having where it's like you can't be upset that something happens in a movie if like that's really how his life went. Like he can't control that. I will say I feel bad for him. It seems like he had a bit of a rough childhood, and especially with his parents. Something that's been made very clear over the course of many of his movies, but I think this is the most intimate and the most direct, observation of what his childhood like and what it was like to have, a mom who was having an extramarital relationship with somebody, and kind of how that impacts a family. When it comes to just like him basically, being in love with movies, like, yeah, I love movies too, but this dude's really obsessed throughout. I don't know. I will say, I think the actor who plays him is pretty short. Like Steven Spielberg is like 5'8", but I'm pretty sure this dude might be like 5'5". So shout out to the Short Kings for this one. This is one for Vano.
Oh, Vano.
Was that why
That's funny.
Spielberg made this movie, for all the Short Kings out there?
I think he did, for the Short Kings.
Best way to do it. But yeah, that is interesting. I think it's kind of ironic that the movie about his movie making is shot terribly, supposedly.
Well, like
That's
it
kinda really
looked
funny.
like, I think
just
it's
looks
shot well. Like it's Steven Spielberg. He knows how to frame a shot and move a camera. But in terms of the color, it doesn't work on me. Michelle Williams is an interesting case because in the first half of the movie, I was like, this is really bad. Whatever she's doing, it gets better. And I think she kind of settles into the character a little bit, but it's almost like over characterized when he's really young.
I was gonna add on Michelle Williams. I believe that's who Carter picked for one of his
Well, he picked her for best supporting actress.
Supporting actress. What do you think? Do you think she's up for it?
Well, no, because they've like already said that they're submitting her for best actress, actually. So screws Carter a little bit there. But to me, like she is the highest build in this movie, but I don't know if she's really the lead actress. I think that's probably going to count against her. She's going to be competing against Michelle Yeoh and Cate Blanchett. I think Cate Blanchett is going to win the award easily. So, hey, sleeper pick Seth Rogen for supporting actor. Who knows?
Is he in this movie?
Yeah, he is.
Oh shit! I didn't even know that.
I don't want to spoil his role, but he's great.
Yeah, I think best actress will be hard to even squeak into a nomination.
It's a very strong category this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, it's kind of not surprising. I feel like we were saying the same thing with West Side Story, where it's like, oh, that came out last year. That like I barely remember it, but it was still a good movie, but just not that same magic, I think, which is what you were talking about earlier. So yeah, I'll probably still check it out, but my expectations are low. So that's good.
Like I said earlier, I haven't really seen as many Steven Spielberg movies as I probably should have. I have like a bunch on my list, and then I just never get around to it because I'm watching something else. But yeah, like Ready Player One is actually the most recent Spielberg movie I've seen. I don't know. I guess like you see his old work, and then I know that it's different, and I appreciate whether it be musicians or filmmakers that make what they want to make. It's kind of hard because then you have that bar that you expect out of that, and then when it doesn't reach it, even if it's not a bad movie, it's just like, well, but I enjoyed Saving Private Ryan better, or it's not as classic as like Jurassic World is. So I guess that can be part of part of the challenges of maintaining success, especially for someone that's as acclaimed as Spielberg is.
That's actually a really good point. I mean, the past couple episodes, I've been calling the guy washed constantly, but I mean, it's hard to create like an amazing thing like more than 10 times, and he's probably done that, to be fair. So maybe we should cut the guy slack just on our expectations for his movies, because I mean, most of these are still like positive productions and stuff. Maybe it's not what our expectations expect of every movie of his, but yeah, he's obviously he's got to be like an all-time top 3 top 5 director, I'd say. Maybe cut him some slack. I like that point a lot.
When you set the bar so high and so early, and you're so influential to so many other people in the industry, it's hard to stay at that peak of success, for sure. Nobody's immune to making a bad movie either. He's made plenty of, you know, tough decisions over the years. The Crystal Skull thing we talk about. You said Jurassic World instead of Park, but funny enough, even like Jurassic World, he handpicked Colin Trevorrow to like take over that franchise, and I think those movies are not very successful. So you know, everybody makes mistakes. I would say
That's not his fault.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that like I've never been the biggest Jurassic World fan, but I don't know, I kind of like that in Indiana Jones. I just kind of like, or no, not Indiana Jones, sorry, but no, I just like for whatever reason Jurassic World just like popped in my mind as like, people revere that movie. So
yeah. I have a couple final points and thoughts about Spielberg that I just want to hit and get you guys' quick reactions to. So first one, we do have a new Indiana Jones movie coming out, Indy 5. They've been releasing some photos recently. I don't know if you guys have seen some Mads Mikkelsen set photos. They also, I think recently I saw that they're de-aging Harrison Ford for the opening of the movie, at least. But according to Harrison Ford, it's the best he's ever seen. So just want to get you guys' thoughts on Indy 5.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm excited for it, but I'm definitely not. Shia LaBeouf's not coming back, so that's sad. No more swinging from vines. Yeah, hopefully there's no aliens in this one. Mads Mikkelsen, I generally like him as an actor. I believe he's playing a Nazi, if I had seen that correctly. So, I guess kind of going back to the old Raider days, bringing back them as the villains, even though it's like set in the 60s, I think. So, it doesn't entirely make sense. But, yeah, my general thoughts, I'm not excited.
I appreciate Indiana Jones as a franchise for what it is, but it never like grabbed me like it did for other people. I feel like growing up, you get things that you get like either whether it be games or TV shows or movies that you kind of like cling to, and that's like your childhood. And for me, that was Star Wars. So, I always did Star Wars over Indiana Jones or like Lord of the Rings, for example. But so I'm not gonna watch it. Hope it's good for the people that do, but from what you guys have been talking about, it doesn't seem like that may be the case.
Well, he's not doing Indy 5. It's James Mangold who directed Logan and did Ford versus Ferrari. So like for that reason, I'm hopeful at least. No,
Hey, I'm sure all the dads that grew up with it are gonna appreciate it if he did Ford v Ferrari too. So
hey, Logan's a good movie.
no, Logan's great, but Ford v Ferrari. If I had to pick like dad movie, that would be up there. Like my dad saw it and was like, "That was a great movie." Like I bet it was.
That's fair. That is true. I like the movie, but I can be in dad mode sometimes, so I understand. Do you guys the movie The Terminal is about, Tom Hanks he does like a weird foreign accent, but it's not
the
really
real
him.
guy from Iran just died.
The real guy just died. Christian, are you familiar with that?
I'm not. I've never seen The Terminal, so.
Well, so the thing about The Terminal is the movie is, he arrives in New York and then because of a conflict in his home country, essentially he loses his ability to enter the country, but he also can't go back to his country. So he has to stay in the airport. They based it on this real life guy. The reality with him is honestly, he was dealing with some underlying mental health issues where like he was offered a lot of different opportunities to be granted access to like the country of France, and Switzerland was going to grant him access, and the UK was going to give him citizenship. And because he was actually trapped in the Paris airport, not the New York airport. He was given all these opportunities to leave, but his whole thing, he just like didn't want to leave the airport. He just like liked living there. And eventually he did move out, but then like a couple months ago, he went back, and he had lived there for like many years just in an airport because like they couldn't remove him legally, but he had returned after some time away from it, and he got to die there. And I guess that's good for him. At least it was something that he got to return to in his final days, but kind of a sad story. Not really the best thing to make a movie about. The movie probably doesn't, play in the same way in 2022. You probably get somebody with, that's not Tom Hanks to play the role potentially. The Terminal is also like a love story, which is weird.
The Terminal's kind of strange. I think the real life story is a lot more interesting than the movie adaptation, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, rip that guy. He does have a crazy story. And like you said, I guess that's cool. He got to go back there. I don't really know what his situation was like recently, but yeah, cultural icon, Gonzo.
My last thought is that Lincoln gave us Jeremy Strong. It wasn't his first movie, but it was definitely one of his very early strong performances. So, Kody, did you know Jeremy Strong was in Lincoln?
I don't think so. I always think of first time I saw him, always The Big Short. I'd recognize that mug from anywhere, but I'm sure he had like ridiculous outfit and maybe like a long beard.
Oh yeah,
Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think Lincoln's a great movie. I think it's a great performance. I
great
kind of thought
guy.
the movie when I watched the movie, I was thoroughly bored. But Daniel Day Lewis is unbelievably good. So it's got its pros and cons.
Here's the thing, though. We don't know what Lincoln was like. Is he good? Maybe he's really bad as Abraham Lincoln.
True. I mean, I don't know the guy personally. Sadly, Johnny Booth took away that opportunity. But he seems like a decent guy. But what do I?
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Robert Lincoln. There you go.
Couldn't have told you that. I couldn't name anybody else in the cast for Daniel Day Lewis.
Sally Field, Tommy Lee Jones, James Spader.
Wow.
Sounds like Captain America's first Avenger.
Tim Blake Nelson, Lee Pace.
Lee Pace, yeah. Nice. Wouldn't have guessed him either.
All right, guys. I think that was the end of our cap chat number 2. Christian, had a lot of fun, man. Appreciate you doing that with us.
Thanks for having me on.
For sure. Now we'll move on to our next category, which is actually very similar in the same vein of it's called We Have a Podgorithm. So we're going to draw the actual movie cards from the Blockbuster movie game. We do have the expansion pack for season 4. But the way this works is we draw a card, it says a movie on it, and it's a timed thing. So you have 30 seconds to give a hot take, to give your opinion. The movie is A Quiet Place.
Ooh, I like this new pack.
Kody, you want to start?
Sure. I've been starting all episode. Might as well not stop now. A Quiet Place. Directed by my guy, John Krasinski. I do think he's a good director. I do prefer him behind the camera instead of in front of it. But I feel like it is a bold take because he is a decent actor as well, other than Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, Quiet Place. We were pretty quiet in the theater. I saw it with you, Korbin, and it was a good time. Top Rex. 4 stars.
We saw the first one together? Did we?
Yeah. Because I haven't seen the second one. So
well, there you go.
It's on Paramount Plus, I think. But
I don't know.
All right. Go ahead, Christian. What do you think?
With the hype that A Quiet Place had, I felt like everyone was talking about it when it came out, or at least to me. And you see people mentioning, I know, as we were talking about earlier with horror, doing something different. I know it's definitely different, but honestly, it didn't really grab me as much as it probably did other people. And then it didn't help that A Quiet Place 2 was just bad.
Damn. I actually personally, I'll hop in here with my thing. I think The Quiet Place Part 2 is pretty decent. It definitely is forgettable in that it kind of came out right. It was like one of the first movies besides Tenet that I saw back at the movie theaters in late 2021 or early 2021. But I don't think it's that bad. It's definitely different from the first movie and has to take, some different conventions. But I agree. I think John Krasinski getting to focus on directing that movie is much better. I will say it's been reported recently that Lupita Nyong'o is going to be starring in the A Quiet Place Day One prequel spinoff that will be written and directed by Michael Sarnowski, who did the Pig with Nicolas Cage. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the future of that. I mean, Lupita in a new scary movie. I'm down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, always game for that. I think in the second one, Zhaomin Hansu's in it. Am I wrong there? You know who that is, correct? Zhaomin Hansu. We've talked about him in the past. I believe he's in it. So shout out that guy, Zhaomin. He's in Guardians. Great guy.
You're talking about the guy from NBA 2K12?
Yeah.
Or whatever
his name.
2K that is.
His name's Zhaomin. Respect it. It's a great name.
I know who you're about. Yeah. He plays one of the Ravager guys or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Haven't
respect.
seen it,
Respect
but-
to Blood Diamond. If you told me
Exactly.
Blood Diamond guy,
Oh, I should have robbed of a nom in that movie. To be honest, but yeah.
true. Well, let's move on to our final category, recommendations. What have we been into?
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Christian, do you want to recommend anything to the people? I mean, I hear you've been on a bit of a Kubrick kick.
You know, Kubrick, I'm going to recommend one movie from it because, you know, I feel like this is what I thought was my biggest surprise when I was watching through all of his movies. Looking through his, you know, just the list of films that he's done, like 2001: A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, The Shining, all those are considered, you know, certified classics. But the one that surprised me the most was Barry Lyndon, if you guys have heard of that one. I was like, Kubrick doing a like historic biopic, I don't know, like period piece. It's like, it's weird, but I was captivated the entire time I was watching it. It's like, I did not know that they could make a story set in the 7 Years' War about dude pretty much moving from being, you know, just a regular like farm boy type beat from I think it's either Ireland or Scotland to you know, rolling with the aristocrat and the upper class, and kind of seeing his fall from that as well. But I shows to me that Kubrick, when he puts his mind to it, he really can do anything. Like I had a great time watching it. I was like, I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. So that's what I'm going to shout out Barry Lyndon from by Stanley Kubrick. And then another really quick one, just because I thought it was kind of funny thinking about it. So have you guys seen Eyes Wide Shut?
Yep.
So
Classic.
I was watching that in the living room, and
Uh-oh.
I was like, so, you know, two of my roommates were out late at work, so I was just like praying that when they got home it wasn't during, because I got to the like mansion scene, for those that know what's happening in there, and I was like, oh my god, it's not going to be a fun conversation to explain if they walk in.
Nobody walked in, yeah.
Weird cultist sex plot going. And another thing for people, if they don't know, is the last word spoken in a Kubrick movie ever is "let's fuck." So I'm gonna end it there.
Respect.
Great place that bit.
I'll jump in with some recs. First thing I want to talk about is Kody, Christian. Have you guys seen a movie called Fever Pitch?
I don't think so. It sounds familiar.
It's the Jimmy Fallon baseball rom-com. So it's about Jimmy Fallon
What
and
the
Drew.
fuck is that?
Jimmy Fallon is the world's biggest Red Sox fan.
Oh man.
And Drew Barrymore is like a journalist, and they fall in love, but the Red Sox get in between them. And it's set during 2003, during that season. And yeah, just it aired on MLB Network, and so then I like recorded it and watched it because I wanted to check it out. Jimmy Fallon Red Sox movie. I thought it'd be funny, and it was laughably bad. There's a reason he does not act.
Tough.
Was there a lot of fake laughter in it?
There is a lot of fake laughing at his own jokes mostly. Another classic, Hancock, guys. Have we seen that?
Oh yeah. I kind of like that movie, Loki. It's not bad. It's not that bad.
Well, you know, I didn't know Charlize Theron was in it, which I was pleasantly surprised by that. But
oh yeah, big part. She got a big part.
There's a part of the movie, like there's parts of the movie that I really liked, and then parts that I just like thought were really not working. I think when you look at it in context, it's like this anti-superhero movie where like Will Smith literally in the movie like sees a bunch of comic books and it's like homos, like, and doesn't want to dress like them. And I think when you think about it being like released in 2008, and that's also the year that The Dark Knight and Iron Man came out, and then you think about like the way superhero movies go in the next 14 years is like very much not in the direction of Hancock. I think this kind of ages pretty poorly as like a representation of what the future is. So I think it just kind of comes at the wrong time a little bit, maybe a little later, and you rewrite the script a little bit and it can be a cool commentary on what superhero movies have become, or you do it a little bit earlier and it fits in a little bit more of that like early cynicism where we don't want to like be too comic book silly, and be super self-serious. Little strange that basically Hancock is like cucking Jason Bateman in this movie, but I guess we'll end it there.
Yeah,
you like
Bateman,
it, Cody?
he doesn't get the best part of that deal, I'd say. But Hancock, that's an okay movie. I'd watch that right now.
I enjoyed the beginning of it. It has a cool, but the thing is, we've seen like something I talked about in the last episode, being back into the boys again, like the asshole superhero and what that looks like now, and the way you can play up into those tropes in a modern world. I think that's like a lot more successful than what Hancock is trying to do, I guess.
Yeah,
for example.
it's definitely very. It's not like the leader of its trope, I would say, but it's mid tier in there. It's not terrible.
Then just to wrap things up, on Saturday or last Saturday, I did get to have a big movie marathon day. I saw 5 movies in theaters, so I'll just run through those real quickly. Some potential Oscar contenders, new films out. So the first one was The Inspection, which is a new A24 movie. It's essentially about a homosexual man who goes into the military. The performances make this movie for me. The story itself, it kind of almost gets into like, let's make the military gay, and it's still like propagandy, and I don't know. It's just kind of sad at the end that someone felt like they had to join the military just to, have a little bit of a purpose in their life, and kind of the systems that have failed them outside of that were not available to them. But Gabrielle Union's great in it. Jeremy Pope, who's the main character, is awesome. And there's just a couple other people that kind of pop up that you would recognize from other stuff. The other cool thing about it is that there's, in the opening of the movie, he takes a train into Jersey City, where I live right now, and it's shot like at the train station that I drop me off every day. And then he like walks down the very street that, like, not even being labeled, I just recognize as like a street I drive down every single day, which is pretty cool to see in a movie. And it's just one of the cool things kind of about being here. We're out in the East Coast, where a lot of movies are set. And then after that, my favorite movie of the day I saw was Bones and All. It stars Taylor Russell and Timothée Chalamet. It's Luca Guadagnino's most recent collaboration with Timothée Chalamet. Obviously, he did Call Me By Your Name with Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet, which is kind of what makes this ironic. They're making a cannibal movie. Obviously, there's the connection of Armie Hammer may be a cannibal, or at least likes to fetishize the thought of being a cannibal in his sex life. To me, what this movie is about addiction. And I think it's a really cool allegory for addiction. And particularly, it's set in rural America. They kind of travel throughout Virginia and Ohio and Kentucky. And there's the first scene where Timothée Chalamet and Taylor Russell meet takes place in Indiana, which is another cool connection of just like, this is this Midwestern rural aesthetic. It takes place in a lot of trailer parks. It's very set in America, and in the way that kind of addiction has, troubled the American rural society. Cool movie. Little bit not one to watch while you're eating stuff, not one for the queasy people. And Mark Rylance has a pretty creepy performance in it as well. She Said, which I'll just say right off the bat, like as a movie, maybe doesn't work super successfully, because you're trying to make something that isn't inherently cinematic. Like taking phone calls and writing an article isn't inherently cinematic, but you're trying to make a movie about it. But it is a very important story, and it's very important to recognize that Harvey Weinstein is an awful person. And this movie is about the article written by the New York Times reporters that were initially exposed his sexual wrongdoings over the course of many years in Hollywood, and kind of the greater issues in Hollywood. Definitely an important story. As a movie, maybe doesn't work super well, but again, has great performances. Carey Mulligan is fantastic in it. Talked about the Fabelmans already. Decent movie. And then the final one was The Menu, which Anya Taylor-Joy is really good in. And then Ralph Fiennes and Nicholas Hoult also. Ralph Fiennes is really solid. Congrats, Cody. He has a nose in this movie, which I appreciate. it's obviously the metaphor is very clear with what they're going for. It's an eat the rich thing. And it's literally called the menu. It's not as effective as another movie that has similar themes and Triangle of Sadness that came out earlier this year. I like that movie a little bit better. I like the way it handles some things with power dynamics that this one doesn't quite get into as much. But this one is more effective as like a comedy, and I think would be more enjoyable to probably sit down and watch for the average audience. It's a little bit shorter. It has a lot of these fun faces. John Leguizamo plays a really just like a fun character that's great throughout. Hong Chow is in it, and she's also going to be appearing in The Whale later this year with Sadie Sink and Brendan Fraser, so you can look out for that as well.
Nice.
So those were my
Big
movies.
movie day
we got
for
through
you.
it. Big
That's
movie
awesome.
day.
Do you think you'll ever?
It's a little bit of an art.
Yeah. Do you think you go higher than 5? Do you
I
want to?
see. So 5 was tough. I did start at 9 a.m. and then we got out of the last movie at like 9:30. So I could have seen another one. There was showings at 10 and 11. So we could have done more. I think 5 was maybe pushed. I think 4 is really good because it allows me to move between different movie theaters and kind of see the city a little bit. With 5, I did stay in one location for most of it. But it's definitely, if you guys ever need me to plan you a day full of movies, I know exactly how to time everything out.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. I'll hit you up when it comes up. Also, you could have just done a nightcap Wakanda Forever. Just finish it off with a 3-hour bomb. Go to like 2 a.m.
Well, that's the other thing, because like the Fabelmans is a pretty long movie, and Bones and All is over 2 hours. So like with shorter movies, there would be a potential that I could maybe get more in as well.
Yeah, true. You just gotta get like a couple of animated ones one day. get the kids movies involved too. But yeah, great Rex.
What's the clip of the week, Kody?
Eddie, I didn't sleep with your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because that's exactly what someone who slept with her would say.
This is nuts. This is crazy. She came over for like 2 minutes, dropped off the fish tank, and left. End of story.
Where's Buddy?
Buddy?
My fish, Buddy.
There was no fish when she dropped it off.
This is unbelievable. I mean, first you sleep with my ex-girlfriend, then you insult my intelligence by lying about it, and then you kill my fish, my buddy.
I reckon for this week, like I said, gonna keep it quick. We basically recorded back-to-back days. So I actually only consumed one piece of media in between. And last night I watched Isle of Dogs, which I did mention earlier in this film, not in this podcast. Yeah, I think the big thing is the cast. It's the voice cast for me. You got Bryan Cranston basically in the lead. You got great roles from Goldblum, from Bill Murray, Jason Schwartzman. Pretty much just like all of his normal people as well. ScarJo's in it. Really fun cast. The animation's great. I mean, it's Wes Anderson, so it's going to be, symmetrical and everything. It's going to look really good. The story's okay. There's some beats. Greta Gerwig's character is kind of useless. She's like an exchange student that doesn't really need to be there. But I really like the emotional tones with like family stuff and the Kobayashi regime. But I definitely say check it out. And if you're a Wes Anderson fan, definitely check it out as well. But other than that, I did 2 other small things. I mentioned in the last episode that the World Cup was going on. The U.S. sadly did draw with Wales today, so we're not looking good. We'll keep you updated on World Cup watch, but right now we're on suicide watch basically. So stay tuned. And then lastly, not to spoil our next upcoming episode, but I did check out Contactless again. And
the episode's already out.
And again. It is out, and I'll tell you what, I'm putting the work in. I think today just alone, I probably watched like 3 or 4 times. Really just trying to capture as much ambience as I can, and try and take everything out of every shot that I can. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be a banger episode, and I'm excited to get it out to you guys. But yeah, just want to give you a sneak peek there.
Christian, if you don't know, Contactless is the short film that I directed last year at Purdue. I'm making Kody do a whole episode on it because he lost a trivia battle in an earlier episode that we did. My goal for you, Kody, is to have you watch it more than I did when I was actually editing it. So
that might take a while, but I think I can make it happen.
Well, this has been a fun one, boys. Some great recs there and some great cap chatting was had. Christian, thanks so much for coming on the pod, man.
Big shout
Thank
out.
you for having
Appreciate you
me.
coming on, man. Yeah, that's
We'll
awesome.
definitely
getting to talk movies with people.
Yeah, we always love chatting with movies, and it's great to talk to you again, Christian. It's great to keep the connection going, and we'll definitely have you back again in the future. And unless IU beats Purdue in football, then you're done.
Maybe.
You should be fine.
I've already.
I think your chances to come back are pretty high.
Low bar.
Low bar. There we go. And I guess shout out Big Ten Sports. Check them out, right, Christian?
Yeah, gonna get to work my first IU men's basketball game this Wednesday, so pretty excited for that.
Dope.
On the
That's
bar.
yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Stay gapping.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.